Hey, sports fans, Larry Eater here. This is Coffee with Larry. It's episode 874, attempt two. I screwed up. I just kind of lost my train of thought, and my apologies. So I started all over again. Um, this is April 22nd, 2026. I'm Larry. This is the Laren Hall. Here's the coffee. It's a dark roast with a double shot of espresso. Okay. Mm-mm. I procured that at the Starbucks at the UW near the UW Whitewater campus when I took our dear granddaughter Fiona to school today, university today. Anyway, let's talk about the Boston Marathon, which was held on Monday, April 20th. It's held every year on the third Monday of the month, typically. It's Patriots Day in Massachusetts, which is a state holiday. And it is um, 130 years now. Um, the Boston Marathon was founded by our friends at the BAA, Boston Athletic Association, in honor of the inspiration they received from the Athens 1896 Olympic Marathon, which, when the Olympic movement was brought back by Baron Pierre de Coubertin, um, and the Olympic Games were a religious celebration where sports was involved, including wrestling to the death. There was a discus, a javelin. There was a stadia race, which was about 190 meters. There was a race that was 24 lengths of the stadia, which was what about just under 5,000 meters, I believe. Um, and that dated back to what? I think that went on for about 1,700 years. It stopped in 776, 777 before the Common Era, and because there had been cheating. And again, there was a wrestling match to the death, and one of the people, the person who won, actually cheated, and that had been going on. Women were not allowed to watch the Olympics. They couldn't even come into the stadium because the athletes competed in the nude. Um, but that's just a little bit of trivia, and we'll share more with you about the Olympics because being the geeks that we are, right? But speaking of geek races, facts about Boston Marathon. I've been to many of the major marathons: Berlin, London, Chicago, New York. I have not been to Tokyo. Um, uh, I have not been to Shanghai. I will attempt to go to Shanghai in the next couple of years. Um, but I can honestly say I don't think there's any marathon like the Boston Marathon. It has a qualifying standard, which makes it the geeks of geek races. And the thing about the Boston Marathon, brands many times don't get it. Um, because something works in Boston doesn't mean it's going to work across running. Um, these are the most serious runners of marathon and pursuers of marathoning in the world. Yes, the folks in Berlin are wonderful. Yes, the folks in London are wonderful. Yes, the folks in Paris and Tokyo are wonderful. But the qualifying standards, when I was running in the old days, um, I had to break 2 hours and 50 minutes to be in the 20 to 25 age group. My best at that time was 2:51:28, and it took me 2 more years to get down to 2:48:12, which became my best, which I ran on the Los Gatos High School to Soquel grade school course through the Santa Cruz Mountains, and it was a lot of fun. I liked the hills, so it helped me relax, and it made me run the first half slow, and I negative splitted, which was I found the only way that I could break 3 hours, right? And I did that I think 7 or 8 times. But the qualifying continues to be uh, uh, pretty darn tough. And I believe this year, the average athlete who was accepted to compete at Boston had run about 4+ minutes faster than the qualifying standards for their age group. Now, there were some controversies. Chelsea Clinton ran, which I thought was fantastic. It was really neat to see her mom, the former Secretary of State and First Lady, and her dad, Bill Clinton, who's looking great, and he does, I believe, he does a vegan diet, or and I could be wrong. That's what I thought, that I'd heard him say that in an interview, but he looked fantastic. Looked like better than he did when he was president, right? Um, but I heard some people were complaining that, well, Chelsea just went 5 seconds below the qualifying standard for her age. I think she ran a 3:44 yesterday. 3:40, maybe a 3:40. I'll have to go and check. But congratulations! And you know what? Bite me. They have celebrities in races, and if anybody's going to complain about Chelsea Clinton running a marathon, which is she's a great role model for young women. Uh, you know what? Take it up with a higher authority, okay? You're kind of an idiot. So, because celebrities, we live in a cult, a world of celebrities, and it's sad, but people look to them as role models. And if Chelsea Clinton's 3:44 can encourage some people to run, take care of themselves, I think that's fantastic. Okay, case is over. Larry's made the decision. Stop it. Okay. Now, John Career. John's race was a brilliant race. It showed a confidence that he didn't show in the first time when he won Boston. You remember that he won Boston last year. Then he went to Chicago, and I thought he was going to win Chicago. And at about 21 miles, he just stopped running. That party was over. And he just had a bad race. Came back and ran 2:02 in Valencia, won there. I talked to Ron Mann, his coach, and I talked to John, and they both said, "Hey, sometimes you have good races, sometimes you have bad races," and that's the thing. And the thing about it to understand is at that level, you're redlining, and you are going as fast as you can for as long as you can. And Gary Gettleman, the late Gary Gettleman, the proprietor at Ryan Sports in San Jose, a dear friend, someone who I met in 1977, who I was fortunate enough to train with a bit. My buddy Gerhard trained with him for a much longer time than I did. It is just it was tremendous, and but what Gary would tell me was that when athletes are going really close to the edge, sometimes you're going to go over the edge. And someone said something to me yesterday. It's one thing when you can be in the top 5. It's another thing when you realize that you can win the race. And what John did yesterday, you remember our friend Milkisa Mangisha, what he did on Monday, excuse me, when Milkisha took the lead at the half marathon, 101:52, which is pretty damn fast, 101:43, pretty damn fast, right? At first, John kind of went with him, and then he kind of, you know what? This may be a little too early. So John ran his race. He put the brakes on. But at 30K, John didn't need to put the brakes on anymore. And he naturally went up. And by the time he hit 20 miles in 1:33:59, he was flying. And he flew the rest of the race. And it went from winning in 2:03 to breaking Jeffrey Matai's course record of 2:03:02. And that record was set in 2011 on the course. And John led Alphonse Felix Simbu from Tanzania under the record, as well as Benson Kipruto. Now, why should you know? And so John Career ran 2:01:52. the new course record at the Boston Marathon. Alphonse Simbu ran 2:02:47. He had 3 seconds on Benson Kipruto, former winner. But where you should know Alphonse from is last year at the World Champs in Tokyo. He outleaned Zach Coase. You got to go watch that marathon. Amal Petros from Germany, who at London this coming weekend on the 26th is hoping to break the German record. But 3 men, 2:01:52, 2:02:47. Third was 2:02:50. Was Zuhair Talbi, 2:03:45. Big PB for Zuhair. Remember, he's the course record holder in Houston, and he's in the U.S. Army training program. Second American was Charles Hicks, Stanford grad, who could represent the UK or the US. He's chosen to represent the US. Now, neither Zuhair or Charles Hicks I'm not sure can be on our U.S. Olympic team yet, but I think that by the time 2028 comes, they should be eligible. So they were the first 2 Americans. In fourth place was Holly Marion Kiros from Ethiopia, 2:03:42. Then Zuhair Talbi, 2:03:45. Then Tabelo Ramankonsgona from Lesotho, 2:04:18. Seventh was Charles Hicks. Eighth was Richard Ringer from Germany, the European champion in 2022. This is his first time in Boston. And Richard ran a 2:04:47, big PB for him. In ninth place, Alex Masai, who represents Hoka, 2:05:35. And in 10th place, Milkesa Mengisha from Ethiopia, 2:05:35. In 11th place, Clayton Young. Clayton just had 10 weeks of training. He's coached by Ed Eyestone. He'd had an ankle injury that put him out for 18 weeks. And I interviewed him before the race, and he said that he'd really like to run a PB. He thought he was in good enough shape to do it. When he started waving and touching people's hands at the halfway point, I thought he was going to drop out. I was like going, wow. But perhaps it helped him relax a little bit, But Clayton, again, 2:05:41 for 11th place. In 12th place, Ryan Ford, big PB for the American, 2:05:46. I believe his best was 2:08 flat before that, right? Joe Klecker in 13th. So nice to see Joe, 2:05:56. Now remember, he'd run a 2:10 in his opening marathon, 10th place at the New York City Marathon, and he finished 13th here. So pretty darn good for his second marathon. In 14th place, Forever Canada, our friend Rory Linkletter, the man with the Canadian mullet. Rory's got a great sense of humor. He's just a good guy. I have fun with interviews with him, and I got some time with him after his race. And so we'll be getting those all up for you too. And in 15th place, Yemeni Haile Selassie, 2:06:06. Now, 16th was Nicholas Kipkorir from Kenya, 2:06:07. 17th was Hendrik Pfeiffer from Germany, 2:06:34. 18th was Sondre Moon from Norway. He's the national record holder there, 2:06:52. I think Sondre's run a 2:04:52. I'll have to go back and double check. 19th was Haftu Knight from the U.S., 2:07:38. And in 20th was Wesley Kiptoo from the U.S. in 2:07:55. Galen Rupp was 22nd, his best race in 5 years. I believe, let me just double check with Galen. How old is our guy? What do they say? What age group is he in? Galen is in, I thought Galen, he was year of birth, 86. So he's 30, he's almost 40 now. And he went out in 104.01 and came back in 104.14. That is pretty damn good on that course. And again, his best race in 5 years. Good job, Galen. We had a nice interview before the race, and congratulations. The first time I interviewed Galen, I think he was 15 after the Nike Border Clash. Um, so just CJ Albertson, 209.59. CJ had told me that he was dealing with some injury issues, some exhaustion issues. He just wasn't sure what was happening, but it's nice to see him running and doing pretty darn good. So well done, CJ. CJ is a community college coach in track and cross country, one of my favorites too. Um, and let's go to the women's race again. And I just wanted to share with you some of the incredible performances that happened in Boston. Sharon Lokedi was the winner. Now, Sharon won last year in a just nail biter of a race where she and Helen O'Beary duked it out to the very, very end. Was it 217.22 to 217.41? And the 217.22 is the course record for Boston. And Sharon this year ran a 218.51. She went out in 111.03 and came back in 107.48. There are men and women who would die for that PB for the half marathon, right? Sharon's race was dominating. It was should have been a confidence booster for her. She had a couple issues. One was she forgot her watch. And at the post-event presser, she said 20 minutes into the drive to Hopkinton, she figured out she didn't have a watch. And she went to her coach and said, Coach, I don't have a watch. And they borrowed one from our friend Steve Pfeiffer, a former elite runner, and who was helping with the elites. But Sharon ran a glorious race. John Career did better interviews than he's done in the past. His English is good. Sometimes he speaks a little quietly, so it's kind of hard to hear him, but his English is very, very good. Sharon is an incredible interview. And she's incredibly articulate, and it makes a big difference because her story gets to be told, and John's story gets to be told. I feel bad for the athletes who are shy about their English, or don't know the language and are trying to communicate. And it's like me when I speak French a lot of times, where I make the mistake of thinking in English and then trying to speak French, you know. And as my friend Nicola over at Lake Keep says, Larry, don't even try your French; it's crap. Thank you, Nicola. So second place was Lois Chemnung, her first time, I think, in a marathon major, and she ran 2:19.35. We're going to see her around for a long time. She was born in 97, right? Mary Ngugi Cooper, she's been there 7 times. This is her best finish, podium finish, 2:20.07. She was born in 88. Mercy Chalonget, 2:20.30 in 4th place. And in 5th place, Jess McLean, first American, 2:20.49. Now, Jess was the first American last year. A lot of pressure on her. She handled her race. She handled the media very well. She competes for Brooks, and Brooks is upping its game in terms of its support of elite athletes. And they've got its authenticity, and that's what's important. And we'll get back to that in a minute or two, okay? So Jess is the first American woman. Irene Cheptai from Kenya, 2:20.54. Worknesh Shadessa from Ethiopia, 2:21.52. Annie Frisbee in 8th, 2:22 flat. Brilliant race for Annie. 9th, Emily Sisson, 2:22.39. Emily's best race, I believe, in several years. The American record holder is looking good again, which is really nice. 10th place, Carrie Elwood, 222.53, I believe, a PB. 11th place, Bedatu Herpa, Ethiopia, who won the Dubai Marathon a couple years ago in a sprint finish. Bedatu, 223.58. In 12th, Dakota Popine, 224.04. I believe that's a big PR for her. 13th place, Elena Hayday from Minneapolis, 224.45. I believe that's a big PR for her. In 14th place, Cody Keevan, US, 224.49. I believe a big PR. And in 15th place, Amanda Vistry, 224.49. Again, big PR. That's Amanda's second marathon. There's 80 brands out there doing running shoes right now. About 10 of them have had athletes who have won world marathon majors. Actually, about 6. Under Armour now has had Sharon Lokedi win New York and Boston twice. And I broached this with my friends at Under Armour, and I just said, guys, why aren't you taking advantage of that? Why aren't you telling your story about your brand a little bit more? I don't understand it, because Under Armour supports this incredible group of athletes, not only U.S. based but Kenya based, and they need to get some. They're authentic. They've got Grace racing shoes and track spikes. I would like to see a little more out of their training shoes, although some people really love their training shoes too. But Under Armour should be a bigger brand. Our friends at Brooks, they make great running shoes. They make great track spikes. They have serious runners: Jess McLean, Clayton Young, Amanda Vestry, C.J. Albertson. So they have that authentic. Josh Kerr, right? They have that authenticity, and runners want the authenticity. And the 80% of people who are wearing running shoes want real running shoes, and that's part of the challenge too. So the brands that are authentic, they get their butts kicked. Now, here's the thing that I see with almost all these brands. At a certain point, they go, we've got to broaden our scope. We want to, everybody's a runner. Well, not everybody's a runner. And, Nike said runners are welcome and walkers are tolerated. And the truth is, at the Boston Marathon, that's pretty much the way it is, because it's the geek. It's not that they don't appreciate walkers and let people walk. And people, Bill Rogers, when he ran his 2:09:55, had 5 times he walked where he drank water and stuff like that. And walking has been, a lot of people have used it. I've used it in running and stuff too. Okay. I saw some piece today on social media that Nike was pace shaming. What Nike was doing is what Nike always does. And when people get upset about it, I just kind of go, what planet are you on? Someone sat in Beaverton, having a Starbucks, and came up with some things to shake people up, right? And back in 1996, they used a line that said, you don't win bronze, you lose gold. And I believe it was Gwen Torrance who got the bronze in the 400 that time, and she was not a happy camper about that. If this line had been used back then, people would have just said, well, Boston's a serious running thing. Instead, people were talking about pace shaming and stuff like that. The best response was our friends at OOFOS. Again, to be transparent, we work with OOFOS. But they said everybody's welcome. And I thought that was great. But they're not running shoes. In fact, they have a sign up that says in their booth, OOFOS, this is brilliant marketing. Well done, Angel, whoever did that, give him a raise, okay? I was talking to Angel Martinez. He's the co-CEO over at our friends at OOFOS. But if I went into the booth and I was watching, because I do this. I sit down and I just, grab a cup of coffee and I observe. I watched people coming into the UFOS booth, and there were women buying 2 and 3 pairs of shoes. It's like I used to see with On Running, right? And they knew what UFOS was because these are the serious runners. And UFOS needs to understand that this all day recovery thing, they could take everywhere, you know. And they're testing and they're learning, but they had a wonderful pop up in the was it the Copley? I'm going to get this right. I got to get this right. The Marriott Copley, right in front of the Marriott Copley, and it was just it was a brilliant space, and I think they're there for a while now, you know. But and pop ups was the story of Boston. You know, it was Tracksmith and UFOS who did the first pop ups years ago, what 2018 or something like that, and what was happening was the Boston Expo, which used to have everybody there, and it was kind of wackadoodle. Um, Now they only have the major sponsors, and yes, Adidas has protected its space and its legacy, but didn't Adidas even need to do that? Adidas has the best sponsorship, bar none, of any major marathon that I've been to in the world. The product is better, the tradition is better. I see Adidas Boston wear everywhere. Okay, everywhere, and and they I know they've flown stuff in when they run out of things. They've done great, but here's my thing. The Runners Expo was all about inclusion, about giving everybody a chance. And I remember Tom Clark, the former president at Nike, back in the 80s when Nike took over the sponsorship because they had the sponsorship at Boston for a few years before Adidas came in with Adrian Leak and Guy Morse and just set it up for eternity, man. I think they're like to 2042 or 2045. I think the Boston Marathon is the most important sponsorship in the sport, period. I think the relationship between the BAA and Adidas is a lesson in how to do relationships for sports marketing and for sponsorship because they both get it. And my only thing with Adidas is sell more running shoes in the US. We can't get your shoes anywhere. And that's the truth. You can get them online, but I don't like people buying running shoes online. And look, I love Joe Rubio in Running Warehouse, but the reason why Joe does so well is because so many running stores do shitty job of working with consumers. And that's going on for years. In 1989, when I had started American Athletics Magazine, one of my questions was, do you have confidence in your local running store? And it was down around 57.4%. Now, I think it's a little better now, but running stores, you guys are giving business away. I don't understand it, right? Because running stores should be the height of the culture of our sport. It blows my mind. Okay, so yes, I've had some caffeine. We're going to be talking about some exciting things this week. So this is just Wednesday. So tomorrow, Thursday, we'll be chatting. Friday, we'll be chatting. Saturday, we'll be chatting. We're going to be talking about why the Boston Marathon should be a legal course for records. And I had this with Dave McGilvery, the race director at the Boston Marathon, and Steve Vitonis has helped me with some research, and we're going to chat about that. I think Amby Burfoot's doing a piece on marathon a handbook, which was a wonderful site. I got to meet the folks who do that too. And we're going to talk about the Brooks RCA Running USA party that I went to on Saturday. We're going to talk about the feeling around Boston. We're going to talk about athletes at all levels around Boston and the history of Boston. I love the Boston Marathon. I ran it in 1986. It was, I think I ran 3:23. I should have been under 3 hours, and but I was stupid, and I just ran a dumb race. But I fell in love with it from the first day I went there. First time I went to New York, and I have to go back. I missed 2018 to 2024 because of health issues and because of money. Because when you have 5 heart surgeries, you don't have a lot of money. So but thanks to sponsors like Brooks and Nike and UFOS and our other friends, we're able to tell our story, and you're going to see some really fun things coming from Run Blog Run and our partners. So we'll share with you about that. But Run, jump, and throw today. Tell someone you love them. Do a random act of kindness. This is the end of episode 874. This is attempt 2, and I think we did a pretty good job on it. And it's Wednesday, April 22nd, 2026. Have a great day, and I'll talk with you tomorrow. Okay? Now, let me just make sure I do this now. I'm ending the stream. Hi, Steve Itonos. It's great seeing you. Jack Fleming, great seeing you. Guy Morse, great seeing you. Thanks, Mr. Mark Bosserdet, for his help today. Talk to you soon. Okay, and I